and I will post the recording after we're done, so anybody who couldn't join us can review what we talked about. And as I said when the first few signed on, I'm open to any questions you have, but I'm assuming that you might want to talk some about a midterm coming up and some about the first analysis assignment. And I heard also there's a question about the second analysis assignment. So my goal for the next hour is to reduce anxiety for all the students and answer any questions you have about anything related to the class. So let's just open it up and get started.
Well, I'll jump right in. My first question is about the midterm. It looks like we open it, we have 90 minutes to finish it from the time we open. And so we need to do it in one sitting.
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so I will not open it until I feel like I'm ready to do it in one sitting.
Yeah, we may have talked about this at intensives, but you may not remember because you may have been thinking about a million other things that we were talking about. But the midterm is 20 questions,
Yeah.
it's multiple choice, and if you've done the assigned readings and looked at that material in both books, you should be just fine.
Yeah.
Now, this is not, a proctored exam that you can't open those books. So you can use them for a quick reference, but it's 90 minutes, so you can't look up every question or you won't get through. So I highly recommend that you do the reading, make sure you understand the material, and then take the exam, and then you should do fine.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. I do remember that from intensives. I just didn't remember if we could like do a half-hour, close, come back, or if it was all in one sitting. So that was the part I wanted to clarify. And then my partner Trouty couldn't make the call today, so I have some questions on her behalf for assignment 1 or the analysis 1. When we compile our answers to turn in, does it have to be an APA format like a paper, or can we just lay it out on there's no format?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
good.
You need to submit the analysis so I can see, if you get the answer wrong, so I can kind of see where you went wrong and give you part credit for whatever parts you did right. So give me for assignment 1, it's that Excel sheet that you've plugged the numbers into, and then give me the answers to the questions. And those can be just, 1, 2, 3, 4, a couple of sentences. It does not have to be a formal paper, and it does not have to be APA.
Okay. So show when you say submit the analysis, you mean show where I plugged numbers in? And
give me a copy of the Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want to submit the Excel spreadsheet and then a Word document with the answers, that's fine. Or if you want to get fancy and cut and paste, and I'm always impressed with students who know way more about merging files than I do, but there's no extra credit for that. If you get the right answer, it doesn't matter how you submit it.
That's really good to know. And then the other question she had, the DNPs, I think, they're part of the assignment is to speak to the clinical significance.
Yep, you guys are supposed to work together on the interpretation.
Right.
So all students need to understand what do these results mean, because whether you're conducting the study or reading the study, you need to know what those results mean. So you're going to work together on that part. and then they should speak to the clinical significance. So looking at what the assignment is about, you can speak to clinically, what would this mean?
So her thought was we didn't have enough information on the population and what we were studying to speak to the clinical significance. So she wanted to know how to deal with that.
Let me pull up the specifics of that assignment. There's going to be a little a little thinking through what do I know about this that that I can answer that question. So what you know for this particular assignment is, you know that when you combine these 3 studies, you know something about those 3 studies. And you know something about the file drawer analysis, and you know something about what that stuff means from your other responses to the questions. So when you speak to the clinical significance about this, you can base the answer on those things. So
like, even if we don't know the population or the issue, just based on the statistics we have, we could say things like, oh, only 1 published study would destroy our data. Or like once we get the file drawer number, right?
Right. So if I'm
a DMP,
if I'm a DMP student in charge of implementing evidence-based practice in my setting, do I have enough data to suggest I should change my practice on what I know from this assignment?
Okay, that's super helpful, Bonnie. Thank you.
Yeah.
We can sort of speak to like a generalization based on the findings. Obviously, a general effect size, without needing to go into a ton of specifics.
Yeah, you don't have to make it real complicated. I mean, the way you just said it, Anne, would be adequate to answer.
Okay, perfect. That will help her. We'll talk about it.
Because that is a good question. You're gonna know a little more clinically about some of the next assignments than you knew about this one.
Okay.
But basically, it's knowing what I know from this analysis exercise. Would I change my practice based on this?
That is super helpful. So it doesn't matter if we're studying pregnant women or obese children or whatever we're studying, all that matters is we're looking at the data, and will that guide us to change practice or not? Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
That's a good question. Because for this one, it doesn't give you much to work with.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Other questions about this assignment before we switch to another?
One of my questions is about this assignment. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Lorraine.
Can you explain what it means in the appendices where the Z-score tables are, how they max out at different Z-test values, but regardless, that's always 49.99%. What does that mean?
Yeah, so those, and that's a great question, Lorraine. So in the video where it walks you through how to plug things in, it doesn't really explain very well how you're going to take those values and compare them to the charts in the book. But you need to do that to make a decision on what those values mean. You can use either book. So you can use Monroe or you can use Portney and Watkins. It doesn't matter which one. In the appendix, in the back of the book, they both have tables that you look at the degrees of freedom and you look at the values and you find whether or not it's greater than or less than 0.05. And then you need to be able to interpret that. Now, I think if I'm understanding your question, Lorraine, you're asking how the heck did they come up with these values in the table? And that is all statistics based on the normal distribution, the normal bell curve.
So does that mean that in a normal curve, the area under the curve can never, it looks like it just goes closer and closer to 50%, but can never hit 50%? Because
well, which book are you using?
well, I have them both open because it's the same. The Portney and Watkin books stops at the Z value of 4.00, where the area is 49.997%, and the little green book, the Keller and Kelvin book, stops at a value of 5, and then all it does is just gain a couple of more fractions of a point closer to 50%, but it stops. So then what does that mean?
So what you need to do is compare your value with what's in the chart, lining up. So which question?
I don't have a question about how to complete the assignment. I would like to understand what that means statistically in those two tables, that it never hits 50% and it stops before it does.
Yeah, so which you're using two tables for this assignment. So are you talking about the chi-square or the Z?
The Z.
Okay, so as you look at the Z-score, yes, it's looking at zero to Z and then the area above. So again, it's looking at the normal distribution and it's looking at those two tails and what the area between 0 and that Z would be. And it's all based on normal distribution and probability. And that's why you get the Z-score and then go to the table. Now, don't get freaked out when you start to interpret for this assignment that there's nothing close to what you get. Just answer the question of, is it above or below?
So beyond the basic question, which is, I'm okay with that, does that mean that for the distribution of a normal curve, that by the limitations of what defines a normal distribution, the area between 0 and Z maxes out at 50%, and then the two tails are 25 and 25?
Well, it's not quite. Remember what the normal distribution looks like. If you go back and do the reading on the normal distribution, it's not 100% that lies between, because your 0.05% are those two extreme tails. So it's a 2.5% on each end that's not going to be in this area under the curve. It's going to be that part that lies outside.
Maybe it's more statistically complicated than what I need to know. I just don't know why the table stops before it ever hits 50%.
Yeah, so look at
what that means.
So if you got Monroe's and you look at figure 3.1, normal distribution, and you add 34% and 14%, and then your 2%,
Okay.
That's your
So
50.
34 plus the 14 plus the 2, that makes it always top out there.
Yeah, so,
Got it.
but your 2% is your 2 standard deviations over. So that's
Uh-huh.
the part that it may be the language that's confusing, but that's the part that's not under the curve, is that 2%.
Thank you. That helps me get there.
And for anybody who didn't follow all that, it's not critical to this assignment, but it does help you understand how they came up with those. And really the normal distribution and the curve, understanding that part of chapter 3 probably will help you in the midterm. Are there other questions?
Bonnie, this is Christina. Can you talk briefly? I think I finally got it about the one-tailed and the two-tails. So, and you have like the null, the no change in the middle. Is that correct? So if, I was just looking at it. So,
Which page are you looking at?
I don't know. It was in my notes. I was looking at your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so first of all, most people who are real purists say you should always have two-tailed, unless you've done a whole bunch of studies and you really have good science to suggest you can go one tail. You should have two tails and say, is there a difference? Not, is my intervention going to make things better? So, the null is there will be no difference. And then you have that normal distribution and you have 2% on both ends. If you have one-tailed, you put the basically 5% on one end. But you have to be really sure that it couldn't possibly be the other way. So most statisticians say do two-tailed.
So the two-tailed is you're looking at if there's like more or less change. But with one tail, you're just saying there will be a change?
You're saying there will be a change and I know what direction it's going to be in.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That helps.
Yeah.
Can you ever really know for sure what direction it's going to be in? I mean, I know you're kind of basing that assumption on prior research, but do we ever really know for certain?
Well, and that's the purest statisticians say, don't go that way. But you might say, okay, I know that given Tylenol makes kids' temperatures come down. And there's been a gazillion RCTs and they've been done in all kinds of countries. And I know this, and so I'm gonna go one-tailed. And what that does is allow you to get away with a little bit smaller sample if you definitely know what direction. So that's the advantage. And I guess you could say, will a dose of Tylenol ever make a kid's temperature go up? And chances of that are pretty slim, unless they, take the whole bottle and have the hyperthermia that goes with it. But Anyway, that's just the only example that came to mind. Jennifer, you keep trying to say something, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I came on about 8 minutes into this, so I'm not sure if it's already been addressed. So if it has, I apologize, and I'm happy to meet with you offline if it has, just not waste anybody else's time. But the file drawer analysis, my partner and I were working on this yesterday, and so there was a question on the template, how it auto calculates all of the K's to 1. And then in the middle of the formula, it has the less than 1, comma 1. And so we were confused on what that meant, because when we did the manual calculation off of Rosenthal's, it's completely different numbers that we're getting. So we were just kind of confused on how exactly to do that.
Yeah, so the way you should do that is just use the Excel spreadsheet and interpret it using that how-to sheet that's color-coded. And I think that file drawers section is in green, if I remember right. No, it might be orange. Maybe I should pull it up.
It's in orange, but everything you put in there, it automatically defers and it makes it a 1. So I just wanted to make, like, we've tried different numbers in there and it still puts it as a 1. And when we do the manual calculation, it's between 2 and 3. So that's where we're just kind of confused. Is it always just going to be a 1 then? Or so
Yeah,
one's
it should change actually. So,
I had the same issue.
so there might be a problem with the formula in the Excel spreadsheet if you're getting 1. Go ahead and submit what you're getting and interpret. Just tell me how you did the calculation. If you have already submitted it and just use the calculation, just interpret what you got. That sounds like it could be an error in the Excel spreadsheet.
For what it's worth, Christy and I have worked on it, and our file drawer analysis on the Excel calculator sheet comes out to 1.
Yeah, it does on
Okay.
the Excel sheet. But if I'm understanding what Jennifer said is you calculated it a different way and got a different answer.
correct. We did the manual calculation, which is the Rosenthal's actual manual calculation. So we did it that way, and we get anywhere between a 2 and a 3, which is, I mean, still a low amount of studies that can, make your data not meaningful. But just the fact that the numbers were different. And then we tried manually putting different numbers in there on that template, and it still just gave you a 1. So I think it's a problem with the formula on the actual document.
So Bonnie, are you saying it's okay that we just use the Excel spreadsheet, get a 1, and we'll just
It
No.
is.
not worry about it? Just,
Yeah.
okay.
It definitely is, because that's how the assignment was designed, and it's not your fault that the formula is not correct.
Okay.
But Jennifer, if you've gone to all the trouble of calculating it, just submit that if you want to. The file drawer analysis.
Thank you.
But the important thing with that is to be able to interpret it, just like you guys just said. Other questions?
Oh, I have a simple question. Where are the peer eval forms? I couldn't find them last night.
They're in the intensive module.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry, we took a look at them during intensive, so that's where you.
I remember looking at them, but then last night I couldn't find them again.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Thank
what they are.
you. Okay.
I think,
Question if no one else, oh, sorry.
Christina, are you about to ask something about the assignment 1?
I was gonna ask about the test, so go ahead.
Mine's a third topic. Mine's about the outline. But I was looking at the rubric instructions for the proposal outline, and I either never knew this or I lost track of my notes from intensives when it's asking us to bring, excuse me one second, if I don't actually look at what I'm talking about, I might say the wrong thing. When it asks us to use the criterion for publication for the type of project or study we're proposing and to use those guidelines that we talked about in intensives week, I don't remember what that is.
Yeah, so basically the bottom line of that is for the DMP students, they're going to use the guidelines for a quality improvement project. And you, the PhD students, are going to use the guidelines for writing up a study, whichever design you pick. So once again, in the module 2 that we did for intensives, there is resources for critiques, and it's a link. It's about halfway down that module, and it takes you to the page. Up on the right-hand side of that page, it lists like Squire guidelines, and it just goes through the whole list of everything. Just click on it, and it gives you kind of an outline of what should be in that kind of study.
Thank you. I do remember, but I will admit I had forgotten.
Yeah, but what I would say for the paper itself is go with the outline that's in the module that is specific to the product you're going to have to hand in. So from the PhD handbook or the DNP outline. And those, let me see if I can locate real quickly.
I have that question too, because if I want to have an outline for an RCT, the consort goes into such granular detail that it would be a much longer outline, I think, than what you want us to have for.
Yeah, so just pick and choose, but don't, you don't have to give every single little detail, Christina, but don't miss the big things.
Okay. So if I have it right, the point for those of us in the PhD program is that the guidelines need to match the study design that we're proposing.
Right.
Got it.
Right. So if it's an RCT, you better tell me that, that it's got an intervention, it had randomization, it has a treatment group, or it has a control and a treatment group. Those are the kinds of things that have to be in there. And for the DNPs, you guys are going to use those Squire guidelines.
Yeah, I'm going to tack one more question on while we're on this subject. For even if our dissertation proposal is not likely to be quantitative, for the purposes of this class, we're still working within that very first assignment 1 where we propose to use some version of something that is a quantitative study for our area of interest.
Yes, that's a very important point. Very important.
We're still in the quantitative course.
Very important point. That is true. Are there other questions?
Well, I was just going to ask about for the test. Sometimes I do just kind of want to understand the different type of tests and when we use them, like the t-tests and the chi-square and all that. I mean, how much detail are you expecting for the test in kind of knowing when we're applying which kind of statistical test for what kind of data we have.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of critically important to know the parametric and the non-parametric, and that's why you had separate I don't think you got there yet, though, did you? Okay. We're not there yet, but you will have 2 voice PowerPoints that really go over that in great detail, the parametric and the non-parametric. But that is going to come through on what you tell me you're going to use to analyze the proposed project and or studies. But here you can put a little star by this, because I think for you guys to understand as you're critiquing studies, if it's categorical, they should use non-parametric, so something like the chi-square. And if it's a continuous variable, they'll use the parametric, like the t-test. But you're going to get a lot more content on that, Christina, as you move forward through.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably just thinking of all I learned from the critiques.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think how much of it I understand at this point. So that is very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, the second half of the course really focuses on the analysis. The first half we were talking more about design. So I hope it will become more clear. The other thing I want to point out, just we haven't gotten there yet, but in week 11, you have the proposal components for a PhD dissertation and the project components for a DMP scholarly project. And I would use those as your outline for the final paper. And they're in week 11. Now, John, you jumped on a minute ago and I wasn't sure if you had a question or.
No, I'm good. Jennifer asked my question.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
I wasn't sure if I was going to make it or not, so.
Perfect.
I have one more question, and again, I don't know if it was addressed in the beginning, so if it is, I apologize. But for whenever it comes to the midterm itself, did you talk about if you go in once, is that you have to sit down the entire time and complete it during that period? You can't go back into it?
Yes, we did talk about that, and that is correct. You have 90 minutes,
Okay.
but you only have one time.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a few questions about assignment 2, if no one else has any other questions.
I will pull it up just so I can remember the details. Okay.
So you had posted a few videos for us to watch by, I'm going to call him Dr. O because I don't think I'm going to be able to pronounce his name. And so per the first video you posted, it looks like he ran examples for both the two-way factorial ANOVA as well as linear regression in kind of the latter half of the video. But for the purposes of the assignment, you just wanted us to submit the first part, the ANOVA, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so going through these processes, it looks like I have 3 different files. The first one is the .sav, the data file. And then there's the syntax, and also there's the output document on the statistics viewer. So do you want us to submit 3 separate files for this assignment?
You can do this. I need to be able to see the analysis that corresponds to the questions and the answers to the questions. And you can submit it however you want. As long as I have, I can view the analysis and I can view the answers to the questions, that's fine.
Okay, and when you say the analysis, are you talking about the syntax or what are you, or the,
Both syntax and your results after you analyze the data.
okay, and then, so you don't necessarily need to see the data file, I guess is what I'm interpreting, since that kind of has stayed, we're just using that to
Right.
determine all the other
Yeah.
results. So,
I gave
okay.
you the data file. So unless you changed it, I have it.
Okay, because because for the second portion of the assignment where we are doing the dummy variable coding,
Mhm.
it does render like a different
Oh,
data
you're right.
file.sav. So I presume for that part of the assignment, you do want us to submit the data file.
No, you don't have to submit it, because if you do that, if you do the analysis without doing that right, the analysis won't come out right.
Oh, I see. Okay. So all we really need to give you is the results of all of
Yeah.
this. Okay. Because on his lecture, on kind of the video that you posted, he had showed several different views, including the view from the data file. So I wasn't sure if you wanted us to submit that as well. So,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you for clarifying.
I do want the syntax.
Okay.
And I want the final results, but you don't have to submit the dummy variable data file.
Got it. So from a data submission standpoint, there are two different files, the SPSS and then the syntax, and then like a Word document with the answers to the questions or the interpretation portion, and then the clinical significance portion for DNP students. Okay. And then let me see what other questions I had. Okay, this is kind of getting into the minutia a little bit. So on Dr. O's PowerPoint slides, like I downloaded the PDF of all his slides. Slide 25 shows omit first equals no on the syntax, but slide 26 shows omit first as being yes. And so that's just a selection that we make to compile the data. So I wasn't sure if you wanted us to choose no or yes for that.
Tell me what slide you're on again.
Here, let me pull it up real quick. So for slide 25, if you look at that syntax kind of in the middle right of the window, where on the bottom line it says \options, order equals A, use value labels equals yes, use ML equals yes, and that last portion, omit first equals no. Do you see that on there on slide 25? I can share my screen with you if that would be easier.
Yeah, that might be better, because I'm
Okay.
not sure I'm looking where you're looking.
Let me share it with you real quick. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is slide 25 in his PowerPoint slides. And so do you see this area here that says omit first equals no? And that correlates to this box here. And then if you go to slide 26, he has omit first as being yes, which I'm assuming means that you were supposed to click this box, like select it as like a yes.
On slide 26 is the syntax then, right?
Yeah, but on his syntax, this syntax is the same as this,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of this last part. because the syntax is just showing you what selections to make on this box that will give you your resulting data, right?
Right.
And so one of the selection options under macros is this omit first dummy category. And so on his first syntax example, it has no. On his next syntax example, it has yes. So I'm just wondering, for the purposes of the assignment, do you want us to select this box here under macros? Is it important to do so, or can we just go off of the first syntax example he has that says no?
I think the important thing about this is to realize what you're doing. So in order to create this dummy variable, you are changing the number of variables you'll have, right? So I think, so this is for the linear regression, which you're not going to do for this assignment. You're just going to do the ANOVA.
Well, this is for the dummy coding portion, that second part. This is how he walked us through to do the dummy coding, to where we have these low, medium, high variables for dose, instead of just having it kind of as one variable and letting SPSS do the selections for us. So this was kind of the second part that he walked us through.
Right. So the process for doing the coding the dummy variables, I would use the video and how he walks you through it. And there's also the second to the last PDF in that module actually walks you through step by step how to do it. And if what he's got is confusing, just use that how to. I think it's very clear.
The how-to that's posted in the modules with all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's the second to the last one in the module, and it walks you through how to recode.
Okay, let me just pull that up real quick here. Oh, this how to record variables.pdf.
And it's actually, it should say recode. So sorry for that typo. Okay. I'll fix that right now. But open that PDF up and it'll walk you through step by step how to do it.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry if his stuff's confusing.
No, that's okay. I didn't even notice this PDF for the purposes of this assignment. So I'll look through it more.
Things that say how to are screenshots step by step on exactly how to do it. Now, these were created by a little bit older version of SPSS, so don't freak out if it doesn't say exactly the same thing in the same place, but the process should be the same.
I did notice that actually only once or twice, and I kind of just flipped through the buttons and figured it out, but you're right, it's not exact.
It's not exact anymore because these were created a version ago or so. Okay,
great. And then my last question, I believe, is that for the dummy coding assignment, kind of the second portion, can we just tack that on the ANOVA so we only have to submit 2 files, or do you want 2 separate files, one for the ANOVA and one for the dummy coding?
You can do it either way. It doesn't matter.
Okay, perfect.
I'm gonna change this up real fast. Okay. Hopefully it says recode now.
I think you answered all my questions for assignment 2. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. There's several people who've been very quiet. So do you have questions that you want to ask before?
Actually, I did have one quick question. Sorry, Bonnie, about assignment 2 that I missed. For the interpretation portion, do you want us to comment on every single table that is generated? Or I know it's just 1 point. How much, because we can get pretty in depth with the interpretation. How much information would you like?
I would keep it to answering the question, the research question. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be real lengthy. I would remind yourselves what the question was and then try to answer the question.
Oh, you mean the initial question that prompted the analysis of this data?
Mm-hmm.
And what the findings of this analysis mean to that question.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. And we can find that question just from watching those videos, right? I don't know if it's actually clearly displayed on the assignment itself.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Other questions?
Okay, I'm letting the pause go because I don't count as one of the people who've been quiet, but I'm back. Can we circle back, please, to something you already said? And then when I tried to match it up on my syllabus and make a note about it, you had mentioned something about when we're doing it was when I was asking questions about the research proposal outline. And I think you said go to week 11 and DNP students do this and PhD students, please do this, but I don't remember what you said.
Excuse me. So in module 11, underneath all those documents, there's an outline for the DMP project and there's an outline for the PhD dissertation.
Okay, so module 11 literally has that.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. It's just the PhD dissertation proposal components, right? For the PhD.
From the handbook, right.
Okay.
And that's, I would use those components as the headings in your paper. Now, obviously you're not going to have results in discussion and conclusions, but you can use that for the project proposal and you can use it for the dissertation proposal.
Bonnie, I still have that there's another virtual office hours next Monday again. Is that true?
There is, if people still need it. I didn't cancel those. I just added these.
Oh, good. Because yeah, since the assignment is not even due yet until November 2nd, I think, right?
Right.
First, yeah. So that would be helpful to know that you still have office hours next Monday again.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Just wanted to check.
Yeah, we just added these additional ones. We didn't take any of there were just several people on the first evening call that said Mondays didn't work that well. So then I did the doodle poll and I found when the most people could attend and added, I think, 3 more.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Jen. And sorry, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but just for further clarification on the proposal outline that's due coming up for DMP, we will just simply complete the CU College of Nursing proposal justification, that PDF that's in there, go through that all, complete it all, and then submit that? Or are we using that as a basis and submitting our own paper?
You're using that as an outline for what you're going to do for your paper. And the outline you're submitting soon is going to give me little bulleted information under each of those headings so I can give you feedback. And you'll get as much feedback as you provide details. So if you provide a lot of detail, then I can give you a lot more feedback. But it's just an outline. It's just headings and bullets under that. So review literature, this study, this study, this study, you know, gaps in the literature, whatever. Not, you know, Smith et al. Did blah, blah, blah. It's just the outline, what you're gonna put in the paper.
Okay, so we never actually submit that particular document PDF that has everything there to list out. That is just for our reference.
That's just for your reference, so you know kind of what the heading should be.
Thank you.
And far better to clarify before you hand it in, so I don't mind questions at all. Anything else? Julie, Melissa, Beth, you guys haven't said much, so if you have something, chime in. Amy, I can see Amy, but I don't think she said anything either.
Just thinking.
Feel free to ask.
No, I appreciate the time. My questions that I had were on the midterm and they've been answered. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. I'm just taking it all in. I do have one silly question. There was something, I believe, about posting on the discussion board. Are we just posting an article or are we dissecting the article?
No, I'm sorry. I took the discussion boards out. I feel like there's enough work in this course without having you post weekly on a discussion board. So I took the discussion boards out, and not all the voice PowerPoints are updated to reflect that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
I'll ask one more if no one else does. Once again, on the proposal, the outline. So you said we're not saying like our literature review, you know, all the different journal articles or whatever, but do you want us to say like we use CINAHL and PubMed, we got this many in our, okay.
No, you don't have to go into that level of detail for this. You can just sort of summarize what you're going to do in that section with bullets.
Like keywords, or?
You could say search strategy, and then you could say, you know, Smith article, Jones article, or all the quantitative, all the qualitative, all the mixed methods. I mean, you can outline it however you want to outline it, but you don't have to write the paper yet. Just bullets on what's going to go in what section. And the idea of this is to help you start organizing, okay, what's the best approach to doing the review of the literature? What's the best approach to talking about the question? What's the best approach to talk about the methods? What are all the sections I need to put in methods?
So like saying, I'll do a Prisma, or like, but not that detailed?
You could say synthesize these studies using, or do, you can give me as much detail in bulleted form as you want, and I'll give you feedback. But don't submit a draft to the paper. That's not what the assignment's about.
You mainly want to know if we're saying we're going to do an RCT, then we're going to show you what are the important components of an RCT.
Right. And you may want to like list the instruments or the measures and then say, include reliability and validity, that kind of thing. You don't have to write out exactly what all that is yet, but that's what you're going to do in that section of the paper. Any last questions before we wrap it up?
I have one more if nobody else would like to go before me. Just a recommendation, please, if there can be one. I know you've told us from day one, don't get wound up too tightly about the midterm quiz. But if we were going to attempt to at least review some things to feel better prepared, should we stick to, are there any essential chapters that you feel like the content from those are, even as a takeaway for the whole class? Because even though I'm in the PhD program, my background is qualitative.
Right.
So like, for example, you said, take a good look at chapter 3 and really understand what a normal distribution represents. And is there anything else you would say that?
I would say that I highly recommend that you complete the assigned readings in the 2 books.
Okay.
And if you complete those, and I don't know, you know, if you're an outliner, if you're a person who tabs things, however you organize material in those, so that you can say, okay, like, you know where the appendices are and you've looked at them and you've critically examined them because you asked questions. I mean, that tells me that you've done the reading, you've worked with the material in the book to do the assignment. I think you guys are, if you do the assigned reading in the 2 textbooks and you've thought about the material, you're going to be fine.
Thank you. And thank you for the doodle survey. I am one of the people out of the 7 days of a week. Unless something is an emergency, I can't do anything else on Mondays. So thank you.
Yep. No, as I told you guys, if you let me know what you need, I'll try my best to make it happen. All right, we have a minute to go. Any last minute questions? All right, I will. You can always feel free to email if something else pops into your mind after we disconnect. But I think it's about time to sign off. So have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.